Good morning. My name is Zulayka Santiago, and I hope this works. I was hoping to be interviewed by my daughter or somebody else, and life has gotten a little full. And we leave on a international trip later this week. So, yeah, I hope this works. I'm just gonna interview myself, and you'll let me know if you need any follow-up responses or information. And I intentionally didn't look too closely or make notes on the question to keep it more naturally like an interview. Yeah. So hopefully this will work. Um, Putting my feet on the ground and looking outside my window at the trees, these oak trees that keep me company every day. Okay, so in my imagination, what does liberation look like, feel like, taste like? Um, yeah, liberation feels like a deep sense of connection and acknowledgement that this life force connects all living beings on this planet, regardless of geography and species. Um, Yeah, and it's a felt sense of that kind of connection. It's an antithesis to isolation and loneliness. Um, it's a response to sometimes feeling lost in the world. It's a sense of finding home. And it feels like not necessarily warm, but like temperature control, not control, temperature. Yeah, it's just the right temperature is what I'm trying to say. Not too hot, not too cold, just the right temperature. Um, and it feels like my toes have the space to move and wiggle and feel the earth underneath my toes. And then it tastes like, mm, arroz con gandules, which is comfort food for me from the Caribbean, but it tastes like really nourishing home cooked food. That's liberation. Why is it important to seek liberation in all we do? Um, that's the purpose of life, at least in my mind. That is the purpose of my life, is to inch closer to a sense of liberation and freedom and to maybe help others inch closer to liberation and freedom. That's the purpose of my life. That's why it's important. And that, I think that more of us feeling that sense of liberation and freedom means more peace in this world and less violence, less war, less genocide. Where do you feel most at home? Why? How has this changed over time? Yeah, it has changed over time. And especially for a person like me, I'm 49 years old. And the last time I counted, I had moved 38 times in my life. So home used to be wherever my mother was. We had so many different houses and so many different cities, but wherever my mother was felt like home. And there's still some truth to that. Thank goodness my mother's still living, and she does feel like home to me. Um, and I've also grown my own family. So I have a life partner, 14 years, and a 12-year-old daughter. They feel like home. Our little pooch, our four-legged friend, Chico Bonbon feels like home. I've um, had several long-term relationships with dogs in my life, little dogs, and glad to be in one right now. And the way that it has changed is that home also feels like being in the forest at Earthseed Land Collective, which is the group that I'm a part of, and we've been exploring this question of what it means to be in relationship with a place for the last 8 years. We've been on this land, these 48 acres in North Durham, North Carolina. And so home now has expanded to include my little sit spot in the forest. And that forest overall, actually. Every time I cross the threshold from the mowed paths, that is where like the land has been heavily impacted by humans, into the forest, which is where yeah, wild nature still reigns supreme. There is like a sense of relief in my body. I'm able to breathe a little bit deeper. I'm able to greet my tree elders, who I love so much, since I know so few of my human elders. Now those trees feel like home. They feel like family. They feel like wise counsel. And they also are the home and habitat of my expanded kin, my expanded family. So I'm learning to expand my sense of family beyond us humans. That has become an important part of my spiritual practice, an important part of my sense of liberation, is to understand that my kin come in varied forms and varied species. And the more I settle into that truth, the more expanded my heart becomes, and the more expanded my sense of connection becomes. Sometimes I wish I could take this computer into the forest, but then it's more like I take other humans into the forest for them to experience that kind of expansion. Uh, yeah, I think I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. What does family mean to me? Who feels like family and why? I think I've definitely addressed that in the previous response. I will also say that as a person who identifies proudly as queer, as bisexual, and having um, grappled with some layers of rejection, definitely not what too many of our queer folks have to go through, but the sense of chosen family is also an important one. So I have a close circle of sister friends. I call them my daughter's tias, aunties, that I can't imagine living without, surviving without. So they are part of my family, and these other humans that have been in this land collective experiment with me, this Earthseed Land Collective, vision, dream, mission come to life. So it's my partner and I, and then it's 5 other humans, all Black and brown folks. So it's 7 of us total that have been doing this. We've been at this for 12 years, although we've only been on the land for 8 years. And they are for sure, part of my family. And I don't say that only in the romantic sense, like it's not always fun and games. It's having some hard mirrors held up to myself and holding hard mirrors up for other people. And our children have grown up together. And those kids, oof, Yeah, I love those kids. Zawadi's cousins, the earth seedlings. There's 5 of them total. Yeah, anyway, so they are my family for sure as well. Does this idea of family influence or shape your leadership practice in what ways? Undoubtedly, undoubtedly, both the concept of chosen family and how it is that we commit ourselves to other humans on a lifelong basis and the work that is required to stay in those relationships, to choose that commitment day in, day out for many years. So that influences my leadership for sure. What it means to be accountable to other humans, which is something that we are still in the thick of learning ourselves for sure. And also the expanded sense of family, the kinship beyond the human species. I try to incorporate that into my leadership all the time, every time, as much as I can, when working with groups, when holding space, when facilitating, especially in those spaces where there's such limited access to the more than human world, those cold hotel conference rooms, which is not my favorite place to facilitate, but especially in those places, it feels important either through poetry or through images or through storytelling to help remind people of that connection and that sense of family. Can you speak to a central value, idea, or community at the core of your work? Well, I think that's already come through for sure. So community, I'll start there for sure. Earthseed Land Collective is my home base, my core community. It's like concentric circles. And then there's the community of, social justice oriented folks in this region, in this area, that I've been connected to for years, that shaped me as a leader, as a human. And the value that I hold central, that I tried to come back to, and that I am grateful to Indigenous elders and Indigenous wisdom, not just here in Turtle Island, but across the world, for helping us remember the values of animacy. The earth is animate. So what does it mean to acknowledge that sense of personhood and respect, to extend that beyond us humans? And what does that really mean in practice? Is a exploration that I am in deeply right now. And the sense of interconnection. And I've spoken to both of those already. Interconnection with all living beings on this planet, how we connect through our breath and how we connect through this Earth Mother. Yeah. So those are 2 core values for sure, and love as a force of transformation. So not love in the, you know, snugly comfortable sort of way, though that is important, but love in the sense of being able to consider somebody with different views, with different perspectives, also as my family, also as my kin, and being able to extend to them the same sort of open-heartedness. Yeah, that for sure is a growing edge for me, and I think for most humans, like what it means to really embrace the idea of no enemy. Mm. Yeah, and to have love be the connecting value, the connecting force across lines of difference is core in my life. Can you share a tool or resource that helps you operationalize my values? Yes. So I've spoken to my daily practice of going into the woods and sitting at my sit spot. So this is a particular place that I return to across the seasons, and those 48 acres that steward me. I've stepped away from using I steward or we steward. Those 48 acres steward me for sure, teach me. And so the practice is to go and just sit silently with an open heart, as present as possible to the given moment. Because, our human brains have a tendency to quickly go to the past or to the future. So letting my breath bring me back to the present moment and opening up my senses as much as possible to take in the different sounds, both the human-generated sounds and the more than human sounds. So I'm learning to identify the bird songs. My eyes are really bad, so identifying them by sight is not as much of an option for me. But by sound, I'm learning, and I'm so proud and so grateful to be able to know the constant cast of characters at Earthseed. So yeah, the Carolina wren, the cardinals, the robins, the eastern towhee, the pileated woodpecker, and the chickadees, the list goes on. Which is the other amazing thing about this practice of opening ourselves up to the wisdom of the more than human world is that wisdom is endless and the gifts are endless. And the little let me learn bird songs as a portal becomes this immense experience and humbling experience in understanding how many species of birds there are and how many different songs they sing. And each bird has layers of songs. It's just really humbling and mind-boggling. I had the same experience with the children one summer of trying to identify the frog songs. Let's just figure out which frogs live at our little pond at Earthseed. And I bow down to the magnificence of our frog kin because there are many, and their songs are varied. Anyway, so that practice, that tool, is a resource for sure in my life. I try to come back to it in moments of distress. It's hard for me when I travel and go away from that forest, from that particular family of trees. But I try to honor whatever land that I'm on, whatever trees I'm with when I travel. Urban landscapes are particularly difficult for me, so I limit my time in urban landscapes. Yeah, and so that is a tool and a resource that helps me operationalize my values, that helps me keep my heart open, keep me humble, keep me constantly learning, because there is so much to learn. And the first book that I wrote is trying to use these human skills and capacities to capture a tiny bit of that and share that with my human kin, to try to invite them into that kind of relationship. And I'm trying to do that more in my own consulting practice, bring people to the land, have them sit, have them listen, invite them to remember that deeper sense of connection. Okay, and what are you dedicated to making happen in the world? How does your sense of home influence that? I've totally spoken to that as well. I am dedicated primarily to continuing on this path for myself. Yeah, to continue learning what it means to be in relationship with a place, with all of these beings, how to be of service to these beings, to these kin. So I do that again, like I said, bringing that sense of home and connection into the spaces that I facilitate, but also very concretely inviting other humans to come and be with me at Earthseed and catch a glimpse into what the layers of beauty and sustenance that are available to us humans wherever we are. It doesn't have to be that it's 48 acres of land, but that kind of seeing is available to us wherever we are. So I'm dedicated to helping other humans come back to that knowing. So I'm doing that through Earthseed for sure. I'm doing that through my consulting practice. And now I'm launching a new project, another land-based project, also in response to the many gifts that I've gotten. It's called Mother Worlds, and it's about deep listening. It's a deep listening and kinship expansion project for women of color in particular. Women of color carry so much and give so much to our communities that I wanted to create a space. This is going to be in particular a hermitage space. The first layers that it'll start at Earthseed, little hermitage there, a stargazing platform, like deeper into the woods, because right now our community gathering spaces are more in the commons areas, closer to the road. So taking it deeper into the forest, closer to the forest. So offering a hermitage, a listening space for women of color in our community is layer one of Mother Worlds. And then the second layer is to take this as a model to make this a prototype that gets replicated in different parts of the state. I have several friends, also women of color, who are looking to establish land-based projects. And so what would it mean to bring this lens of respect and deep listening and hermitage, like quiet space, into integrate that and help them by creating some kind of intermediary fund that helps them with concrete resources, and that we help each other through the experience of doing this, because 8 years at Earthseed for sure has taught me it's a lot of work and a lot of layers to be in relationship with land. And my sense of home, I think it's pretty obvious how it influences that from what I have shared. In times of overwhelming grief, conflict, and stress, what tools do you use to recenter and come back home to yourself? I have for sure spoken of that. Like if I can, I've actually told my family, they've heard me say it multiple times when I get in my head or things get overwhelming, the demands of life get too much, the heartbreak that we witness day in, day out gets too much. I tell them to send me to the woods. Just go to the woods, mommy. Just go to your trees. Because every time I make it there, it is a recalibration, it's a recentering, it's like a coming back to my breath And it is a conscious, like, stepping away from the harm and the hurt that we humans inflict on each other day in, day out. And it's not to say that there isn't violence, because there is violence in the more than human world. There is death and destruction and this particular kind of harm that we humans inflict on each other and inflict on our planet. Oh, well, we're seeing the detrimental impacts of that. And sometimes it does become too much for the human heart to carry. Definitely too much for one human heart to carry alone. And so for me, it's returning to my elder trees, to those beings in the forest. Yeah, to remember that this is like one little blip in the larger timeline of life. So that sense of deep time, of circular time. And so it helps me to step outside of my individual distress and come back into a broader sense of belonging. That's how I recenter. And that's how I cope. And that's how I find strength to keep going. Ah, um, there are other practices that I will mention that I use consistently. So I had the privilege and honor of being exposed to generative somatics, and the centering practice is one that I return to daily. Um, I do dancing, shaking, like releasing for sure. I love to do that bare feet on the earth. I love to sing to the trees when I'm in the trees, just little songs of gratitude and hearing my voice in the forest on what is it, uninhibited, just to sing for the sake of singing. Who cares what it sounds like is a practice that I come back to. Um, I try to nourish my body in a healthy way. I come back to drinking lots of water. Yeah, those are all tools. I love getting lost in a good novel, fiction. Yeah, and I can go on and on, but those are some of the basics for me. I think that is it for this interview. I hope this was what you were looking for. I'm grateful for the work that you are doing in the world, and thank you for supporting my work in the world and for taking interest, for inviting these questions that are so beautiful and powerful, and that I wish all of us could sit with for a while. Thank you.